Hello and welcome to this segment of Arts Talk. I'm Sherri Burr, I'm your host, and my co-host for this special segment is Laura Vega. Welcome, Laura.
Thank you so much, Sherri.
It's nice to have you here. And our special guest is Alisa Valdes-Rodriguez. Welcome, Alisa.
Thank you.
So Alisa Valdes-Rodriguez is the author of several books, starting with The Dirty Girls Social Club and most recently, The Husband Habit. So why don't you tell us about your newest book, a little bit about a description.
Okay. That book, like all of my books, has a double meaning in the title. So we'll start with that. There's the surface meaning, which is there's a woman in the book who keeps accidentally falling for men who are married and don't bother to tell her until she's already in love with them. And it's my first book that takes place in Albuquerque, completely, which is my hometown. And then the other meaning of The Husband Habit has to do with a man that she falls in love with later on in the book, the main love interest, who's come back from war in Iraq. He's a veteran. And it has to do with the notion of husbandry, animal and military and colonialist husbandry, where you kind of go and take over something and manage it against its will. And that was my perception of what happened in Iraq.
Because when I first saw the title, I thought of Mabel Dodge Lujan, who made a habit of acquiring husbands. And we just saw the George O'Keeffe film where she introduced Tony Lujan, and George O'Keeffe thought he was a friend, and he goes, no, he's a husband. He was husband number 4. So sometimes we think of it as someone who likes husbands.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, she does like husbands, just not her own.
Just not her own. There you have it. There you have it. And The Dirty Girls Social Club was your biggest book. I mean, it was the one that made you famous in the literary world. So what was the double meaning in that title?
Oh, well, that title, like a lot of my books, I end up having basically to explain that I'm not some sort of pervert or something. Because it's not actually dirty girls in that sense. It's about 6 women who happen to be Latina from various backgrounds. One of them is from a traditional Puerto Rican family that told her that the only way she was going to move out after high school, unmarried, well, there would be no way to do that. The only way you move out after high school is if you're married or you disgrace the family. And she said, I want to move out and live in the dorms and go to college. And they said, pero tú eres una sucia. You're filthy. You're a dirty girl. And so she relays this story to her new friends, and they adopt dirty girl in a sense of irony as sort of an empowering term.
Okay, all right. And Laura is a big fan of yours, and she's read all of your books. So why don't you ask Alisa a question about her work?
What I thought was really interesting is that in The Husband Habit, it's just one character. And she's this strong protagonist who's a chef immersed in this man's world, and she's a woman. But working with various characters has also been very successful for you. So why did you decide to go to this one character?
Well, this is actually the second book where I've had a single narrator. The other one was a young adult novel that I wrote called Haters, which was my 4th book overall. Yeah. But I wanted to do it for contemporary women's fiction as well. It's just, as a creative person, I want to be able to stretch and do different things and challenge myself, and I don't want to keep writing the same kind of book over and over. And I had already done 4 books that were alternating narrators, different voices, first person. So this is not only a single narrator, but it's third person. So it was a little bit of a departure for me, a little bit more of a literary book when they divide the publishing world into commercial and literary fiction. And the way I wanted to do a literary book. And I knew that because I'd been successful in commercial fiction, that my editor and publisher were not going to want me to do that. If you've got a good thing going, they don't want you to mess with it, even if you're dying to do something new. So I wrote a version of The Husband Habit that was first person, that was very much chick lit, that had all of the sorts of barometers of chick lit in it that I'm always asked to add because they don't come naturally to me, like shopping and sex and all this kind of stuff. And I turned that book in, and I waited. I got the contract, I turned the book in, and waited to get the edits back, and then completely rewrote it from scratch. On a super tight deadline in the third person, the way I had originally wanted to write it. And I guess I'm a little bit manipulative that way, but you have to be sometimes to be able to do what you know is the right thing to do, but that the people who are handling you might not trust you to do that. So I turned it in, and it was the same plot, the same storyline. The characters had changed a little bit, and my little note was this. Here it is. I've changed a few things. And it was a completely new book, but it had already gone out in the catalog. People had already placed orders for it. They pretty much had to come out with the book. So that wasn't the nicest thing I've ever done, but you do what you have to do. And I'm happy to say that the book, on the one hand, the book has gotten me a lot of new readers, I think, and my old readers have come along and haven't been that concerned with the change.
How many copies of this book have you sold?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I have no idea. I think the original print run was around 100,000.
Okay.
But I don't know how many they've actually sold.
Okay.
They have told me it's selling better than the last contemporary women's fiction novel that I had out, which is good, because my career basically, I took off like a bullet right away. The first book was a big bestseller, and then it kind of went down and down and down, and then a little bit up. And that's not really how you want to do it. You probably want to come in like down here and keep building up and up. But for whatever reason, there was a lot of publicity around the first book, and then a lot of my readers from that book don't even know I have other books out. I'm not sure why that is. But this one has gone back up a little bit, and there is movie interest now from the management company that handles Kevin Costner and for The Husband Habit. So it's kind of a little bit of it's a positive thing. I'm thinking, because before I was thinking, I've got to maybe find another job.
Oh, really? Oh, because your sales had declined so much?
Yeah, but I kind of exaggerate things. I could probably keep doing what I wanted, what I was doing, but not at the level that I had initially.
Now, you received, and it's well known, was it $475,000 advance for Dirty Girls Social Club? Did you also receive an advance for this one?
Yes.
But not at that level?
No, about a fifth of what.
A fifth of that.
Was. Because in publishing and any other kind of entertainment industry, you're only as good as your last work. So, you look at movie stars. They're only as good as their last movie. They actually have programs that they plug into a machine. How much money did they make?
Right.
And they base the amount that they're going to pay you, or whether they're even going to greenlight you to do a movie at all, on that, which is why someone like Jennifer Lopez isn't making movies. All of us think of her as a big movie star, but in Hollywood right now, they don't think of her that way. They think of her as done.
Yeah, because I think her last movie, was it Borderlands? It was shot in New Mexico. It went straight to video.
Bordertown, yeah.
Yeah, Bordertown, that was the name of it. Thank you.
It was a great film.
Yeah,
It really was.
the reason it went straight to video was pretty sad. They did test runs where they show people movies in different parts of the country, and because of all of the anti-migrant sentiment that we have in the country right now, they were finding that people were laughing at the wrong time in that movie. People were laughing and clapping when the Mexican women were being slaughtered. So they decided they weren't going to release it in theaters.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Well, I have a question.
Sure.
So, writing such successful books is an immense amount of pressure. And how do you handle that kind of pressure? Having so many women admire you, think that they know you on a personal level, and that kind of stuff that we have often heard authors talk about. How do you deal with that kind of pressure?
The pressure from the people who love you is a lot easier to handle than the people who hate you. And that's the part I didn't expect. And that's been the learning curve for me. I was very naive when I first came out, and I also thought, that I could be a little bit more public. I've been very public with my blogs and my personal life and this kind of thing, and it has led to a lot of attacks, like very ugly attacks from various places. And part of me thought, maybe I need to change what I'm doing, but then I realized, no, I don't need to do that. What I need to do is realize what's real and what's not real. That was the part for me, was realizing that there is a boundary between, my life as a human being, which involves my family and my friends and the people who know me, and my life as an author or as a public person, where people think they know me, but they really don't. And when people love you, they don't love you. They love whatever it is about themselves that they think you reflect back to them. You're a mirror to their own lives, and especially with books, people often, I've never heard someone say to me, I love that book because I couldn't relate to it at all. you know, that person was nothing like me. It was awesome. I learned so much. You don't hear that. You hear, I loved the book because that person's just like me. I mean, at the end of the day, I think all readers have a little bit of a narcissistic streak, as do all authors. And so it's taken me, you know, it's been interesting as a journey for me to understand that it's not actually me when somebody writes about me. It's not me they're writing about. It's whatever they think I am or whatever they need me to be.
Right.
I'm okay with that.
But Lisa, you've been talking about your life for well over a decade, like in the Boston, was it Boston or Chicago? You gave that, you wrote that article where you talked about your mother having been a prostitute, your brother having been a crack addict, your cousins having in jail for murder. I mean, you've exposed a lot of your life from the very beginning. I mean, what were you expecting would be the response?
It never really mattered to me what the response was. And my impulse in sharing those kinds of details has always been one, I would hope, in my heart, of trying to empower other people who've gone through the same kinds of things. A lot of people will hear, oh, you're Cuban American, and there's a stereotype of Cuban Americans that they're all wealthy, that they're all from Miami, that they're this or they're that, and I wasn't that. We were poor, we were, you know, whatever.
But your father was a professor at the university, right?
My father came to this country as an orphan at the age of 15 with 5 pesos in his pocket and worked as a janitor to put himself through college. He was put in the 4th grade when he was 15 because he didn't speak any English and learned it well enough so that within 11 years he had a bachelor's and a master's and was working on a PhD in that language without any family. So yeah, he just retired as a professor here at UNM. But it wasn't easy, you know, where he was from wasn't easy. And my mom, you know, was the first on her side to go to college. So I've never said those things in a way of saying, oh, look at me, you know, not in a Jerry Springer sense. It was more, you know, I know a lot of people have difficult lives. And here's how you get out of it.
Okay. Did your family know that you were going to write those kinds of details? And what was the response? I mean, what was the response from your mother when you wrote that she had been a prostitute?
My mother abandoned me when I was 11, so I don't really have any contact with her.
Oh, okay.
And so, you know, whatever response that she would have,
you don't care?
I don't really care.
Okay. And how about your brother?
Same thing.
Oh, okay.
They left, they did their own thing. My dad and I were a family.
Okay.
He raised me.
Okay. Right. Okay.
So can you tell us a little bit more about the Eugenia Foundation?
Oh,
I know
cool.
that that's a way that you're empowering women during college and their later studies. So tell us a little bit about that foundation and how we can help.
Oh, thank you for asking. One of the things that I've realized becoming this public person that we were talking about is that there is a great responsibility, I think, that comes with being perceived as a spokesperson or someone who represents a group of people, whether rightly or wrongly. That's how I'm seen. And I have attended a lot of events and done a lot of work to help raise money for scholarships for young women who are going to college. And I think that's fantastic, you know. But at the same time, I meet a lot of the mothers of my readers who are also reading my books who maybe made different decisions when they were younger and had kids right maybe during high school or right after high school. And those are the girls that we write off. And when I went to Cuba to meet my distant family, they kept telling me, oh, you look like Eugenia, who's my dad's mom. You look just like her. She died when she was 28. I don't look like her anymore, but when I was younger, you know, they thought I looked like her. And I thought, you know what, if I resemble this woman on the outside, then I must also resemble her on the inside. And yet she was uneducated. She was impregnated by her employer as a maid when she was a teenager, and then fired when they found out. And disgraced in her town, had to move by herself as a single mom to another city and take 3 jobs as a domestic servant to raise her child, and then didn't have adequate health care and died at the age of 28. So I thought, you know, there but for the grace of God go I. And I think there are lots and lots of Eugenias in our world right now, and we're not really helping them. So I've started a foundation to raise money to help women who are going back to school in their 30s, 40s, or 50s after having made different decisions during high school, because there's no telling why people get in those situations. and I don't think we should write anybody off.
Okay. And is that the reason why you started charging for your blog as of October 1st? Is the money going to support the foundation?
I don't charge for my blog. I have 2 levels of membership. I have a membership website called Las BMW. The basic membership is free. For people who want to pay $9 a month, they can do that, and that gets them free books whenever a book of mine comes out, or other authors. I also have a book club, and it gets them little gifts from sponsors and things like that. So I'm trying to get sponsors onto the website. Part of the thinking behind the website, it's called Las BMW, Las Bold Magnificent Women, is in addition to the books, I also do a lot of public speaking, and I want to do workshops, not writers' workshops, but workshops for the people who read my books, who tend to be Latina, who tend to be maybe the first in the family to have gone to college, who tend to come with certain baggage, I think, like doubting themselves. I mean, all the problems that I think a lot of women are conditioned to have, but my readers seem to have in spades, where I want to do workshops about reclaiming your own voice, about how not to feel shame, even just walking into a room. I can tell when somebody has shame that shouldn't be there by the way that they're holding their shoulders. So I wanted to create that. I also think the publishing industry is moving in the same direction that the music industry moved, that we're heading to an electronic model with Kindle that people actually seem to like. And at some point, the middleman's not going to be there anymore. And I want to be able to have a direct link to my readers. And so consolidating them all in one place where they join up right now. Actually, tomorrow the website will be, most pages will be members only, but the basic membership is free. You can see every page for free.
And members only is $9 a month, and it does go,
No. You can join the site
free,
but you have to join it to be able to read the blog, to be able to be in the book club, to do all of these things. I have to know who you are and how to reach you.
Oh, okay.
And that's also for my own safety, because there are some strange people out there.
Yeah, but on the web?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now, you mentioned trying to empower Latino women. I think